As practitioners and people with a body, we're aware of the central nervous system. However, have you ever considered the whole family nervous system? This is a newer concept I came across when I interviewed Emma and Eleanor from the Reconnected. Listen into this episode today as we explore how conscious parenting, breath work, and the nervous system awareness can reshape family dynamics from the inside out. Hello, friends. This is Lynn Schulte, and you are listening to the Birth Healing Summit podcast. We are here for meaningful conversations that will transform the way you work with pregnant and postpartum clients. Whether it is a new perspective, tool, or technique, you'll be able to implement it into your practice today. I invite you to sit back, listen with an open mind, and grab the golden nugget today's guest has to offer. Now let's get started. Welcome to this episode, everybody. I'm super excited to introduce you to our special guest. This is a special treat for us all because it's a little outside the norm of what I normally talk about in this podcast, but it's so relevant to the clients that we work with. And so today I'd like to introduce you to Emma Johnston and Eleanor Mann. They founded the Reconnected, which is a global community of over 100,000 families. They are dedicated to supporting parents to consciously transform their lives. They are both experts in play work and breath work and play therapy, and they advocate for a modern, authentic, and values-driven approach to parenting. And Emma is a breathwork practitioner, a yoga teacher, and a mother of 5 young children. And Eleanor is a counselor, breathwork practitioner, play therapist, and mother of 5 in her teens and young adult years. And they have both written a book called Reconnected Parenting, Healing the Whole Family Nervous System Through Regulation, Breathwork, and Play Therapy. So welcome to the podcast, you two. I can't wait to dive into this topic. Thanks for being
Thank you so much for having us, Lynn. It's a
here.
pleasure to
So
be here.
this idea, first off, I found you guys just hosted a summit this year. It was the Gentle Beginnings Summit. And I loved, you guys had some big names on there on that summit. So it was really great. And I loved hearing about this concept that I would love for us to dive into today. The whole family nervous system. Listeners of my podcast know I talk about the nervous system all the time when we're working with our clients. But I hadn't heard this concept of the whole family nervous system. It makes sense to me, but tell me more about that, please.
Mm. Well, the whole family nervous system, this idea of, um, I think the reason why it makes sense to you is because we all know how connected we feel to our children.
Yeah.
And the whole family nervous system is this idea that is about making explicit the reality of that connection.
Mm.
And I think we have this saying at the Reconnected, like our biggest misunderstandings with our kids and ourselves, and our biggest struggles and challenges are because we do not understand what is really happening within the relationship. And you can track nervous system to nervous system that the level of communication that's happening is happening in our bodies, in our physiology. And so words that go between two people are just like the tiniest little tip of the iceberg of all the communication that's happening all of the time between family members. And so this concept of the whole family nervous system is about making explicit this invisible, seemingly invisible connection that is the fabric of our everyday life. And when we don't have a framework to understand that, we can spend a lot of our time feeling like we don't know why our kids are behaving the way they're behaving. We don't know why we're reacting the way we're reacting. And if we can just look at our day-to-day life through the lens of our nervous system, our child's nervous system, and what we call the whole family nervous system, then things start to make sense. We stop taking what's happening in our families day to day so personally. We make all of this unconscious communication conscious, and things just get so much easier.
Wow. That
Yeah.
sounds incredible. And I'm just thinking back to when my kids were younger and all the anger and all the, like their
Yeah.
explosive anger. And I knew it was a reflection of their dad and I, but like
Mhm.
I didn't sense that I had this anger going on. But I
Yeah.
knew they were picking it up from somewhere.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was that really that unconscious nervous system of our family
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people who come to our work, they come because they are experiencing a difficult moment with their kids. Like
Mhm.
maybe it's the bedtime routine is like really difficult, or when they're dropping their child off to school, their child's really anxious, or sibling rivalry, fighting.
Yeah.
And they can feel at a loss of, I do everything. I've read all the gentle parenting books. I know that I should be this way, but it gets to this point and I lose it with my kids and I react the way that my parents reacted. And I know better, but I don't know how to do better. And that's when learning about the nervous system and how to really do the work at the level of the body and have that gentle unwind of stress is where you see real changes. So a lot of people in our community have read all the books, like they get
Yeah.
it on an intellectual level, but they're like, how do I put it into practice?
Yeah. So, how do we become aware of this whole family nervous system? What does that look like?
Well, the first step really is to understand that the most direct way to experience what's happening in your nervous system is to bring your awareness to your breath. The
Mm,
breath and the nervous system, we say they're like one thing, really. The
mm,
breath is the quickest doorway into feeling into what's happening into the autonomic nervous system. And it's bi-directional, which means the relationship goes both ways. So, what's happening in your nervous system influences the way you breathe, but also the way you breathe influences your nervous system. And your nervous system is connected to every single um, way that you experience the world, our emotions, our thoughts, our physical health, our relationships. It really is a doorway into every aspect of our life. And so it is actually only logical that if we bring our awareness to our breath, we can actually positively influence every area of our life in some way over time. So most of the time, our breath reflects the stress in our nervous system and the stress that we've stored from previous experiences,
mm,
and the pressures of modern day life and everything that's happening for us. So, if we can return our breathing towards a more optimal state, and if we can develop a bit of a capacity to be with what's happening, and again, the breath is such a powerful doorway for that, then um, we can become aware of what we don't consciously let ourselves realize what's happening.
mm.
Because our autonomic nervous system, another phrase for it would be automatic, or another phrase would be habitual, or another word would be unconscious.
Yeah.
It's like it's everything that's happening underneath the surface. So using our breath, it's also if the breath and the nervous system are one thing, the breath is the conscious doorway to our habitual, unconscious, automatic ways of doing things. So when we start working with our breath, we're really bringing our awareness to everything that's happening that we somewhat know that's just sitting in the background that we're not letting ourselves kind of realize or let go of, or, you know, it's just kind of creating these, you know, I guess like we can know that we have a trigger, but when the trigger happens, we can't stop that like
Yeah.
build up of rage that comes out. The breath is a way of like really working with those stored reactions, etc. Um, yeah.
But a lot of times in parenting, especially when our kids are just driving us crazy, that our response is so instantaneous that there's not even a buildup.
Well,
That
there isn't per se, but there is actually a lifetime of build-up.
true.
And we say in breathwork that our breath carries the signature of our entire life experience.
Ooh, I
And
like
so, whilst you may think that it's an instantaneous reaction, what it is it's a habitual way of relating to a stressful reaction. And we teach a lot in our community about when we're in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, the main nervous system reactions, but coming into a more ventral vagal state where you are grounded and you have the ability, you're free to choose your response. And that comes from doing the work at the level of the nervous system where you aren't this tightly wound
Mhm.
stress response.
Mm,
You've actually freed up your nervous system over time so that
mm.
you do have a more grounded response to stress and reaction, and you move from being reactive to being free to choose in the
Yeah.
moment.
I want to jump in and say there's a really common misperception that breath work or being aware of our breath during stressful moments, what it means or looks like is I come to that stressful moment, I notice it, I pause, I use my breath to calm myself down, and then I can do it the
Yeah.
way I want to. And it never goes like that. And we all know it because there isn't a pause. There's no pause. That's the
Yeah.
whole point. If we could pause before we responded, we would already be pausing. That's kind of the
Yeah.
point. But what a lot of people don't realize, although what people are starting to realize, is if we make time in our day or in our life to take periods of time where we're with ourselves and with our breath in particular ways, then we can um, create through like giving our nervous system the space to just unwind those stored stresses. We can actually work on that baseline of stress that's in our bodies and change the way that we feel in the moment. So the next time it happens, we just do have more space. Our response authentically is different. Um, and I think the best reference point for someone who can't quite understand how this might work is if you just think about how you respond to life, your kids, your partner, work, a bill, etc. When you've had, say, no sleep, you haven't had brekkie yet, you've already had seven of those terrible things happen, and then the trigger happens, right? Your chances of being proud of the way you responded are like
Zero.
minuses at this point.
Right. Yes, for sure.
It. Yeah, and then you flip it to just imagine you've had a really good night's sleep, someone else made you breakfast, you got good news, and then the trigger happens,
Yeah.
right? Like there's more space. So there are ways of using your breath regularly, even semi-regularly, that support your nervous system to more often be in this optimal state, whether the life circumstances support it or not. And so we can just more and more in like come into a place where we are proud of how we're responding in our day to day. Which honestly, after talking to so many parents over the years, most parents just want to feel good about the job they did that day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would love for you guys to explain more about breath work because,
Mm,
I think people listening in are going, what, I just need to breathe? Like, is that all you're telling me? Is all you just have
yeah.
to do is go breathe? But
Mm.
there's nuances to the breath work and what you guys are talking about that goes beyond just, oh, just breathe. So can you dive into that a little bit and explain to us, what it is and what actually is happening?
Yeah. I feel like the first important thing to say is not all breath work is the same. And
Mm.
there's a phrase like the term breath work now, it's just experiencing like a resurgence of popularity, I guess, over the past 5 to 10 years, 5 years even.
Mhm.
And so a lot of people, a lot of practices that any practice actually that incorporates the breath tends to be called breath work. But if you go to something called breath work, you could get anything from this wide, wide range of experiences. Some that, are, yeah, I mean, I sometimes think like it's a wild, wild west out there in
Okay.
terms of what is breath work. So that's one thing that's really good to be aware of. Um, there are like the International Breathwork Foundation and the Australian Breathwork Association are two good places to like discover a little bit more about like the different types of breathwork that are out there. But there's this idea. So I feel like most people are aware of sympathetic
Mhm.
nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system, the two branches of the autonomic nervous system. And so there's a lot of breath work that's out there that's actually sympathetic activation, serves a certain purpose. But there are ways to breathe. So usually in and out through your nose, longer, slower, fuller than usual, um, that that activate the parasympathetic. But it isn't about calming down, actually. We have this idea, I think, because of if we have a general idea about the nervous system, then we have this general idea. I get stressed, which means angry, anxious, etc., and I calm down, which means calm. But
Yeah,
the nervous system is
regulate.
obviously so much more complicated than this. And what's held in our nervous system creates what we call, or what is called a baseline. So we can only kind of regulate back to the degree that our system itself um, uh, has as its parasympathetic baseline. So when we're at rest, when we're relaxing, ideally we're in a high level of parasympathetic activity. But what tends to happen for people is even when they're at rest, their body is still stressed. So people who have depression, anxiety, PTSD, things like this, have a high level of sympathetic activity at all times, whether they're resting or activated. So that makes sense, right? But we all have a degree of um, like we use the term autonomic signature. We all have a degree of stress that we're carrying even when we're resting. So you experience this, say at the end of the day when you're trying to unwind, but your mind can't stop going to this particular thing. So you're just still a bit heightened. That's a bit like how it might feel. And then we come to the reality that, well, since my nervous system's been developing, there's been plenty of times my nervous system hasn't been able to come back into this baseline. So we're all storing things. And there's a way of breathing that means that we can activate the parasympathetic nervous system and actually gives our body mind a powerful message. I'm safe to feel. And so sometimes when we're breathing in this way, we're not feeling calm. We're able to instead have a broadening of our capacity to be with the things that have stressed us out in the past. And we're able then to complete the cycle of stress through our breathwork practice in a gentle way through a breath where our body is getting the message, I'm safe now to feel those things. I can stay with those things now. They're not happening now, they happened then, but now I can be with them. And so we discharge over time this overload of stress.
Mm.
And just like the analogy I gave before, um, you can imagine the impact that that then has on the next time the trigger happens. There's just less loaded in. So when people say like, oh yeah, you can use your breath to calm down, like we all know that's great, it's true, but it doesn't happen in the moment. But if you can use your breath to address that stored stress, then you have more and more moments where you don't need to calm yourself down. Um, yeah. So when people say like, oh, so I'm like the biggest, I sometimes get a bit critical, but sometimes I think, oh, box breathing or calm breathing, or it's great, but you have to be able to use it in that moment, right?
Right.
So people are really only just catching on to just how like just how much more you can do with your breath than just calm down. I think if you're using your breath to calm down, we call that a band-aid. It's like, yes, if you're bleeding, get yourself a band-aid. Calm
Yeah.
yourself down by all means. It's not negative. But if that's all that you understand your breath to do, you're missing out on this huge opportunity to really allow your system to unwind and dramatically change the way you're responding. And I mean, especially in today's world where we're all unconsciously um, aware of not only our own stresses, but the stresses of the world. You know,
Yeah.
it's a stressful world we're in right now. And it's coming into our experience all of the time. And I really do think that parents of today are living with more stress than such a long time. If you think that kids who were 5 or 6, they were born in during a lockdown, So
Yeah.
yeah, families at the moment, especially people with middle years kids, are living with a lot of stress from the past and wondering why now today still feels hard, and it's usually because of just what we're still carrying. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to
And
give you an example of just like how the breath can give you a different perspective about what's happening for you in your current day life. And one for me was I have 5 small kids and they make a lot of noise. And I remember I used to get really triggered by the noise, and it was the moment where I wanted to shut it down. And I witnessed one day that I really wanted to shut down their noise. And I really listened and I was like, they're just having fun, actually. Like, I can't believe how much I want to yell at them, tell them to be quiet. I can't handle it. When actually they're just having fun. And when I went to my breath and I started to explore that trigger, and I was really intrigued about why that was happening for me. It took me back to my childhood where it was not acceptable to make noise in my house. My parents only had me at home. I was the youngest, but I was the only one. And it was a very quiet house. And so everything was shut down. And so my reaction to my children was actually completely out of context to the situation, because in reality, it was really divine how much fun they were having and that they were having the best time. But my little self was like, no, that's not safe. Shut it down. And that is what's so powerful about breath work, is because we can get really current, actually, where it's like, no, I don't own that story anymore. I'm going to do things differently. And a lot of parents come to us and they say, I don't want to parent how my parents parented. Like, I want to do things differently, but I keep finding myself acting like my mom. And that's when this is really conscious work here. It's like, well, what are my habitual ways of relating to stress? And how can I do things differently if I use something like this tool where I can unburden my nervous system and come from a very much more authentic place.
Yeah. So we're
Yeah.
using that breath work to help us to heal parts of ourselves that are reacting to our current situation from
Yeah.
past hurts.
That's out of context.
And it's
Yeah.
out of context, yeah, for sure. So that is amazing, and I love that. How does the breath work and the whole family nervous system, how does that work together? I mean, I guess I'm wondering if people are thinking, is the whole family getting together and everybody's breathing together? What does that look like? What does that mean?
Yeah. So, one amazing thing about being a parent that I think is probably also the biggest weight that we carry is that for our children to regulate their own emotions, they actually rely on the maturity of our nervous system. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, children can't regulate their own nervous system. They literally do not have the literal
Capacity
physical
to do so. Yeah. So
just
that is so important, Eleanor. We need to say that again. Children cannot
yeah,
regulate their nervous system. They
Yeah.
need the parent to help them figure out how to make that happen. And
Yeah.
I just want to say, you guys, I've been reading this other book that I highly recommend, the Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. Very
mm,
popular, very a lot of people are talking about this book. But in her book, she talks about how most adults are 8-year-old children walking around in adult bodies.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh my God, that is such a simplistic way of looking at the world, because a lot of us parents, if you haven't done the work, if you're not conscious, you're not aware of your reactions, you are a child in an adult body. And
yeah,
that adult child is trying to help a child be
Regulate.
regulate.
regulate, yes,
Yeah.
which if you can't regulate yourself, then you can't regulate your child.
No, and all that will happen is you will try and shut down their
Mhm.
experience because you can't even stay with it yourself. This is where like the whole family nervous system model is helpful, I feel, for parents because they can really get like it's real that your child is using your nervous system. Their nervous system is fully formed, but it's not fully developed. It's like they literally need your prefrontal cortex. It's not developed yet. They literally need yours. They yeah, it's not like a metaphor. It's physiologically
Well,
exact,
yeah, and we know that about babies, right? We know
Yeah.
to help calm a crying baby that our nervous system, they're regulating off of our nervous system. So the more calm we can be, the more the baby can be, and that just continues.
Here's
Yeah.
an example sometimes parents find helpful. When a baby's born, so they can't, their autonomic nervous system is so new and so immature that their body cannot even regulate their own physical temperature.
Mm,
All they can do is cry if they get too hot, or too cold, and they require the parent to pick up I'm not the right temperature, and then for the parent to care for them in a way that is going to bring them into the right temperature. So their bodies
yeah.
aren't regulating. So we wouldn't even think about being the right temperature as an adult. We just sweat or we just shiver,
Or we put
like
on a jacket when we're cold.
yeah, we just do these things. But babies are so helpless, dependent, vulnerable, reliant on us. But it's at this level that I think, especially emotionally, that parents maybe don't realize. It's years and years and years. And our nervous system is fully developed around 28
Years of age.
years of age.
Okay, I hadn't heard that.
Yeah. So,
That.
but have you heard the way that, even as teenagers. So we might be able to regulate our own emotions to a degree, but we still don't have the ability to think forward. We still do risky things. We're
Yes.
not fully rational. We're not fully developed. So
Yeah.
that's like this end period of we've developed partially, but there's still parts of our brain that are still coming on a line. And so, this idea of co-regulating is essentially the way that our children use our nervous system so that they have what they need physically, emotionally, mentally. And so, one of the things that happens when, oh, so no, actually, the original question was, do families like all get together and breathe, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Right.
kids don't need to do breath work. What they need is a parent who can stay with them while they are leaning on our nervous systems for co-regulation.
And who's
Um,
connected to them and in tune to them, and yeah.
yeah. So
That
there's this whole other perspective of the nervous system, which this is like a stretch for some people to appreciate. But so a lot of times we are familiar with, okay, the triggers side of parenting. So what what I can't stay with myself. Another way of saying that is what I can't regulate for myself, I will not be able to loan my children.
mm,
My We've got that piece. That's the triggers piece. If my kids have a feeling and I can't stay with it within myself, I will shut it down. That's a trigger. But because of the way that our kids are wired for connection for their own physical survival, yeah,
yeah.
our nervous systems are primed to pick up subtle, subtle changes in their physical, emotional, mental state that give us a message about what they need.
Wow.
So, yeah.
I'm just thinking back to when my oldest was 7, 8, 9, somewhere in there, and him coming up to me and going, "Mommy, are you okay?"
Yeah.
Mm,
And
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't aware. Like I didn't have the capacity back then to be aware of my subtle shifts, but boy, he sure could pick it up.
Yes. Yeah.
exactly. Kids are so sensitive. How often even has your child ever done something like walk in and they even just say something that you thought you were just thinking?
Yeah.
Yes.
Really
Yes.
think, how are they saying what I'm thinking? So that they're so tuned into us and we are so tuned into them if, if we can connect to ourself.
Ah, keep
Because if
in.
we are on any level disconnected from what it feels like in our own body, in our moment to moment changing, then um, our self disconnection creates points where we're not able to pick up what's happening for our kids around us.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say 100% at that time when he was asking me that. I wasn't
Yes.
attuned to myself as I, should have been or could have been in that moment.
Yeah, so now with that reframe, what was he trying to create for himself?
That connection to me.
Yes,
Mm.
he
Yeah.
was saying, you're not connected to yourself. Can you be connected to yourself? Because I'm feeling a bit at loss
Yeah.
here.
Yes. Yeah.
Otherwise, how do we understand when kids are like, Mom, 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 Mom? You're like, hang on a second. Rah! You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
but they're like, I can't feel you. I can't feel you. I
Wow.
don't know if I'm okay because I don't know where you are in your own self-connection. And so the whole family nervous system in our book, we go through all of a few different angles that you can see the way that this plays out. Because I'm so proud of the collective group of parents that's here right now who are all over triggers. I think we're all over it. I think we're doing it. I think we're really doing that
Get
work
it.
now.
Love it.
I really do. I think like there's a huge group of parents who are very willing to reparent themselves so they can be there for their kids in a really different way. But if that's the only piece of the puzzle, then when we can't see the full picture and we spend our whole life thinking we need reparenting, and it's like, no, our nervous system is is our perception tool. It's telling us what's happening around us. It's giving us insight into our kids' experiences. We need it sensitive and we need it to be able just to know what's happening around us. It's not wrong to have dysregulation. It's a message about what's happening. And so really when we can understand like these we call them paradigm shifts because it's a really different way of seeing what's happening around you, let alone in your relationships. Then you can take a breath out. You don't have to do this reparenting work for 30 years, like forever, just digging in your own stuff because you're still getting triggered. It's like, no, what else is happening? There's other things happening. There's dysregulation. Maybe your kids revving up. Maybe there's, something else that's happening around you that your nervous system is just giving you a message of.
Yeah.
Um, so the whole family nervous system is really just about making explicit interconnection to the degree that we understand it now. And once I read an amazing quote, and I wish I could remember who said it, but they said, um, human interconnection is the last frontier of science.
Wow.
And it is. We
Wow.
understand so little about it and we're just beginning. So, we talk about four different perspectives that you can take towards any particular stressful moment of what could be happening. So it's not just about being triggered. There's other things that can go on too. And when we can understand them, then we can just more easily enjoy our lives with our
Oh,
kids.
that sounds awesome. I think interconnected needs to definitely happen, but I think before that, intra-connected needs to happen,
Yeah.
where we're more connected to ourselves.
Yes.
And I think this work is a part of that, right? It's that breath
Yeah.
work could be that pathway into figuring out ourselves and then understanding the connections with others. And if we are parents, we need to do both. And
Yeah.
really appreciate what you guys are doing and what you're putting out into the world. And I'm excited for your book. Um,
Yeah. Thank you very
Emma,
much.
anything more you want to tell us about that book or give us
Well,
some?
I just wanted to say that it's a really common thing for parents to say, can my child do breath work? Because they're like, I get it. I need to do this and blah, blah, blah. But my kid is still doing this. And I think that they very much should be doing breath work. And the truth is that a child's language of healing is play. It isn't about doing the breath work. And so we teach families in reconnected parenting how to be with their kids in this way where they are really expressing what is true for them and what is happening for them in the language of play. And the way that you're able to really be there for them is when you've done this work and you are that interconnected version of yourself where you understand what's happening at the level of your body. You can really see what they're showing you with how they're expressing themselves. And so it's allowing children to really be in their most authentic expression. And we all know as parents that our children play out what is happening for them and what they've seen and what they want to understand. And yeah, so it's about being them there, really meeting them in that and showing them that I'm here for you. I see you. I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That sounds amazing, you guys. So you talk about that in your book then, the reconnected parent, is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, reconnected parenting. We will definitely have a link in the show notes, you guys, so you can all check that out. And I just want to thank you guys so much for taking the time and sharing with us. I think hopefully we've opened up the listeners' eyes and understanding of what they can do to better support their own healing, to better support and understand that the family does have its whole nervous system and that interaction with each other. I think it's just a beautiful concept that we
Mm.
need to get out into the world more and get more people talking about it. I have new neighbors that have just moved in, and their family is so beautiful. And their nervous system of that family is just so calm and so peaceful and so connected that
Mm.
it's just, and I'm in awe of watching them relate. And,
Mm.
mom and dad have done their work, and mom and dad are just that able to be there for their children. And that's really what I hope for everybody listening in to
Yeah.
this podcast. And that hopefully, as therapists working with new moms, we can
Mm.
help them to understand this connection, as we talked about resonating and being that resonance for baby
Yeah.
applies throughout their lifetime, really, um,
Yeah.
and how we're meant to be connected in that way. So, any last words of wisdom before we say goodbye, you guys?
Oh, just thank you for having us. And yeah, we love to talk about this and connect with new people and agree with you. Like it is really important information and um, to have. I know Lynn, maybe with adult kids. I have adult kids too. So the
Yeah.
idea that people might start their parenting journey with this information to me is thrilling.
Yeah,
Mm. Mm. Yeah.
absolutely. Right? Yeah.
I want to say that about community too. We can often find ourselves in our physical environment feeling like we can't really connect with other parents who have the same outlook or understanding. And that's really what we offer at the Reconnected. It's a really beautiful place for parents to connect worldwide with so many other parents doing the work. And you can feel less alone in your parenting journey, wanting to do things differently. So yeah, we're
Awesome.
always welcoming new parents to come in and experience the collective nervous system of the Reconnected, which is
Nice.
very
Oh, well, thank you both for the work that you're doing to help support parenting and making the changes that I too, Eleanor, am seeing in this new group of moms and dads coming through my clinic. And
mm,
it's just so beautiful. And I'm just so thrilled for our world and
yeah.
and just hoping that that is just spreading far and wide. So let's help get your book out into the world. Everybody listening in, please read it, share it. Let's get more parents aware of these ideas and these concepts so that we can have that better world. So thank you both so much. And
Thank
thank
you.
you everybody for listening in. And we will see you all on the next episode. Here's to smoother births, faster recoveries, and whole nervous system, whole family nervous systems being nice and not just calm, but connected.
Mm.
Awesome. All right. Take care, everybody. Bye bye. Today's podcast was brought to you by the Institute for Birth Healing. To discover more, visit instituteforbirthhealing.com. To claim $50 off of any online course, use coupon code PODCAST50 at checkout. Till next time, I'm Lynn Schulte, founder of the Institute for Birth Healing.